I still remember the night it all began, the night I decided to hide everything that made me who I was. The sound of the Atlantic Ocean outside my East Legon mansion was unusually loud, waves slapping the rocks as if warning me of what was to come. I stood on the balcony, looking down at the sprawling city lights of Accra. The city never sleeps, especially not on a Friday night. Somewhere, a street vendor was shouting, "Kelaweel! Hot Kelaweel!" and the smell of fried plantain drifted through the night air. I should have been at peace, but my heart was restless. My name is Kwame Ofori, only son of the late Nana Kwaku Ofori, founder of Ofori Holdings, one of the biggest real estate companies in Ghana. From the outside I had everything, wealth, status, power. But on the inside I was tired of pretending, tired of people who only saw me as a walking wallet. You see, love had become something I couldn't trust anymore. The last woman I dated, Adwoa, had told me she loved me. But one night I overheard her on the phone, bragging to a friend about how she'd finally caught a golden fish. Her laughter still echoes in my ears. That was 3 years ago, but the wound never truly healed. Since then I'd kept my heart locked away like a precious heirloom no one could touch. Until Kojo, my younger brother, burst into my study one afternoon with a mischievous grin and an idea that changed everything. "Big bro," he said, leaning against the mahogany doorframe, "what if you just tested them?" "Tested who?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "The women you meet," he said, walking in. "Disguise yourself. See who truly loves you for you, not for Ofori money." I laughed at first. "Kojo, this is not one of your movie ideas. This is real life." He shrugged. "Exactly. So live it like a movie. You've got the money to do it. Why not see who'll still stand by you if you were just Kwame from Nima, not Kwame Ofori of East Legon?" His words stayed with me. That night, long after Kojo had gone, I found myself staring into the mirror. For the first time I wondered, if I stripped away the suits, the cars, the mansion, would anyone still see the man beneath? It was a dangerous thought but also liberating. So, a week later I called Kojo into my room. "Let's do it," I said. His eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Completely." He grinned. "Then we'll need to make you look like a man the city overlooks." We began the transformation the next day. Kojo brought old clothes, dusty sandals, and a cap that had clearly seen better days. When I put them on and looked at myself in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize the man staring back. My skin looked darker under the sun, my face roughened by the lack of lotion, my beard untrimmed. "From now on," Kojo said, "you're Kabi, an unemployed man who does odd jobs in the city." We agreed that I'd stay away from the mansion for 2 weeks. Kojo would handle company affairs in my absence. I moved into a small rented room near Kainchi Market, blending into the everyday rhythm of Accra life. At first it was overwhelming. The noise, the heat, the endless motion of people hustling to survive. But strangely I began to feel more alive than I had in years. Nobody called me sir. Nobody bowed or smiled out of fear. I was just another man trying to make it through the day. That's when I saw her. It was a Tuesday morning. The sky was already blazing with sunlight, and I had gone to buy wache from a roadside seller. As I waited in line, I noticed a young woman helping an elderly woman carry heavy bags of cassava across the street. Her skin glowed with sweat, and her laughter carried across the market like music. When she reached the other side, the old woman blessed her, saying, "Abena wo y epsilon papa." "Abena, you are a good person." Abena. That was her name. Something in my chest stirred. She wasn't dressed in fancy clothes, just a simple blue dress and brown slippers, but she carried herself with quiet grace. The kind of beauty that doesn't scream, it whispers. Later that afternoon, I saw her again near a small school building, surrounded by children. She was a teacher. I watched from across the road as she knelt to tie a boy's shoelace, smiling patiently as she spoke to him in Twi. The children adored her. I found myself returning to that street every day after that, pretending to be looking for work while secretly watching her. It felt foolish, almost childish, but I couldn't stop. There was something about her that drew me in. Then one day fate gave me an opportunity. A sudden rainstorm broke out while I was sitting outside a kiosk. People ran for shelter, shouting and laughing. Abena was among them, her dress soaked, trying to shield a box of books from the downpour. Without thinking, I rushed to help her. "Here, let me take that," I said, grabbing one side of the box. She looked up, startled. Her eyes, deep brown and gentle, met mine. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're kind." We ran together under a nearby shed. The rain came down hard, drumming on the metal roof. She placed the box beside her and sighed. These children, they love their storybooks, so I can't let the rain spoil them. You're their teacher? I asked. Yes, she smiled. Primary too. I love them like my own. Her voice was warm, carrying that musical lilt of Ghanaian English. I found myself smiling back. You must have a big heart, I said. She laughed. Yeah, my heart is not that big, oh. But when you've known struggle, you learn to care for others. Life is hard enough already. I looked at her, curious. You've known struggle? She hesitated. I lost my parents young. My aunt raised me. She sells groundnuts near the Trotro station. She always says, "Nti woi papa na anyem bihira wa, do good and God will bless you." I try to live by that. Something inside me shifted. Her words were simple, but they carried the kind of honesty money could never buy. The rain began to ease. Abena stood, brushing droplets from her dress. Thank you again, my friend, she said. Call me Kabi, I replied. Ah, Kabi. I'm Abena. Maybe I'll see you around. And just like that, she was gone, walking briskly down the road with her box of books. But from that day, I knew I had to see her again. Over the next few weeks, we grew closer. I started helping her after school, fixing broken desks, sweeping the classroom, carrying supplies. She never asked for anything, but she always shared whatever little she had. A pack of biscuits, some jollof rice in a small plastic bowl. Sometimes we'd sit under the mango tree near the school, watching the sun set over the city. She'd talk about her dreams, to open a small learning center one day for children who couldn't afford school. Education can change a whole generation, she'd say, her eyes glowing. I found myself hanging on to her every word. No one had ever spoken to me like that before, not about dreams that weren't measured in money. I began to see life differently through her eyes. But as our bond grew, so did my guilt. She thought I was poor. She thought I was just Kabi, a man struggling to survive. And yet, every night, when I lay on that hard mattress in my small room, my phone would buzz with messages from Kojo about business deals worth millions. I was living a lie. One evening, as I walked Abena home, she asked, Kabi, tell me something. Do you ever dream of more? More? Yes. A better life. You're hardworking. You deserve it. I swallowed hard. Maybe one day. She smiled sadly. You know, sometimes I wonder if I'd ever meet a man who loves with honesty. Not pretending to be rich, not hiding anything. Just real love. Her words hit me like a blow. If she knew the truth, would she still feel the same way about me? That night I couldn't sleep. I went to the beach, where the waves whispered secrets to the dark sky. Madame Ajoa, my late mother's housekeeper, always said, "The sea never lies, Kwame. When your heart is confused, listen to the waves." I closed my eyes and listened. Was it right to continue deceiving Abena? Or would revealing the truth ruin everything? When I opened my eyes, the first light of dawn had begun to creep across the horizon. I knew what I had to do, but it terrified me. I had to know if her love could survive the truth. I had to tell her who I really was. I took out my phone and dialed Kojo. Bro, he answered sleepily. What's up? I'm ending the disguise, I said quietly. Tomorrow. She deserves to know. There was silence on the other end. Then Kojo said, Kwame, are you sure? You might lose her. I looked out over the crashing waves, feeling the weight of my decision. I'd rather lose her to the truth than keep her with a lie. The line went dead. And as the morning breeze brushed against my face, I realized, this was the moment everything would change. Tomorrow, Abena would learn who I truly was. But what I didn't know then was that she had a secret too, one that would shatter everything I believed about love. The morning sun rose over Accra with the soft hum of life beginning again. Trot rows honking, roosters crowing, and the smell of frying kush drifting from the roadside stalls. I barely noticed any of it. My mind was heavy with the weight of what I was about to do. Today I was going to tell Abena the truth. I hadn't slept all night. I kept pacing my small rented room in Kainchi, rehearsing words that never sounded right. Abena, I'm not who you think I am. Abena, my name isn't Kabi. Abena, I'm rich. None of it felt real. How do you tell someone who treats you with kindness when you have nothing that you've been lying about everything? Kojo called around 8 a.m. You sure you still want to go through with this, bro? He asked. Yes, I said. I can't keep lying to her. She deserves honesty. He sighed. Then prepare for anything. People don't always take kindly to truth when it's wrapped in deception. I ended the call and sat on the edge of the bed. My heart pounded like the drums of a high-life band. For the first time in years I was afraid, not of losing money or business, but of losing someone who made life feel real again. By late afternoon, I was walking toward the small school in Atabraka where Abena taught. The children were outside playing, their laughter echoing through the dusty courtyard. I stood under the mango tree where we often talked, waiting. My palms were sweating despite the light breeze. Then I saw her. She walked out of the school building carrying a stack of exercise books, her blue dress fluttering in the wind. Her smile lit up the dusty street, and for a moment, I almost forgot what I came to do. "Copy," she called, waving. I forced a smile. "Abena." She walked up to me, tilting her head. "Why do you look so serious today? Did something happen? Can we talk?" I asked quietly. Her face grew concerned. "Of course. Let's go sit by the mango tree." We sat down, and for a while I couldn't speak. The city noise faded, even the children's laughter seemed far away. Finally I took a deep breath. "Abena, there's something I need to tell you. Something important." She frowned slightly but nodded for me to continue. "My name isn't Kabi," I said slowly. "Kwame. Kwame Ofori." She blinked. "Ofori? As in?" "Yes," I interrupted softly. "Ofori Holdings." Her mouth fell open. "The real estate company?" I nodded. "My father founded it. I'm his son." For a long moment she just stared at me. Then she gave a short, nervous laugh. "You're joking, right?" "I wish I were," I said. "Everything you know about me, my job, my struggles, it's all part of a disguise. I wanted to know if someone could love me without money. If love could be pure again." Her face went pale. "So all this time you've been lying to me?" "I didn't mean to hurt you," I said quickly. "Abena, I needed to know. I've been betrayed before. Everyone around me seems to want something. But you were different. You cared without asking for anything in return." She stood up, shaking her head. "Kwame, do you have any idea how this feels? You made me believe we were equals. You made me open up to you." I rose too, reaching for her hand, but she stepped back. "Abena, please, I'm sorry. Everything I said, every moment we shared, it was real. I just wanted the truth." Her voice trembled. "You wanted the truth? Then here's mine." I froze. She turned away, facing the dusty horizon. "I'm engaged, Kwame." The words hit me like a blow to the chest. "Engaged? To who?" "A man named Kwame. My aunt arranged it months ago. He's a family friend, wealthy, older. My aunt says it's the only way to secure our future. She believes love won't pay the bills." I stared at her, my mind spinning. "But why didn't you tell me?" She turned back, tears in her eyes. "Because I didn't plan to fall for you." My breath caught. She took a step closer, her voice breaking. "I tried to fight it, Kwame. Every time you smiled, every time you helped with the children, every time you listened to my dreams, I felt something I shouldn't have. I told myself you were just a kind man from the streets, someone I could help without guilt. But now..." She covered her face with her hands. "Now you tell me you're a billionaire and it feels like a cruel joke from fate." "Abena, I'm supposed to get married next month," she whispered. "Kwame has already paid part of the bride price. My aunt says we can't go back. She depends on him for her market stall, for rent, for everything. If I back out now, she'll lose everything." The pain in her voice was unbearable. "So you're going to marry a man you don't love?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she sank down under the mango tree, her shoulders shaking. "Kwame, I prayed for love to find me. I never thought it would come wearing rags. I thought you were poor but genuine. Now I see that even the rich can suffer loneliness." I knelt beside her. "Abena, I can fix this. I can take care of your aunt, her stall, everything. You don't have to marry Kwame." She looked up sharply. "You think I'm for sale?" "No. That's not what I meant." She stood up again, anger and pain flashing in her eyes. "That's exactly what you meant. You think money solves everything. You tested me because you believed love couldn't exist without it. But maybe you're the one who doesn't understand love." Her words pierced deep. I tried to speak, but my voice failed me. She continued, softer now. "You asked if love could be pure again. Maybe it can, but not when it begins with lies." The silence between us stretched, heavy and painful. I could hear the faint sound of children's laughter in the distance, mocking the heaviness of the moment. Finally she said, "I need time, Kwame. Please don't follow me." And she walked away, her figure growing smaller with every step until she disappeared behind the school gates. I stood there numb. The mango leaves rustled above me as if whispering a sad song. That night, I drove back to my mansion in East Legon. The guards were surprised to see me dressed in my usual tailored clothes again. Madame Ajoa greeted me at the door, her old eyes full of knowing. You've told her, she said simply. I nodded. And I may have lost her. She led me to the living room, where the soft hum of the air conditioner replaced the chaos of Kenshi. Love tested with deceit is like soup cooked without salt, she said, using one of her many proverbs. It may fill the belly, but it will never satisfy the heart. I sank into the couch, covering my face. She's engaged to another man, Ma Joa. Because of family pressure. The old woman sighed. Then it's not over yet. The heart knows its owner, Kwame. If it is meant to be, even the ancestors will clear the path. Her words comforted me slightly, but my heart still ached. I didn't want to lose Abena. That night, as I stared out over the city lights, I made a silent promise. I would win her heart, not with money but with truth, patience, and love. The next few days were torture. I didn't see Abena at school or in the market. When I asked around, one of the teachers said she had taken some time off. My chest tightened with worry. Then one evening, Kojo burst into my study, breathless. Kwame, you won't believe what I just heard, he said, dropping his car keys on the table. What is it? He hesitated. Kwesi, the man Abena is supposed to marry, he's not who he says he is. I frowned. What do you mean? Kojo leaned forward. One of my friends in the business world says Kwesi has been under investigation. Fraud, money laundering, shady land deals. If Abena marries him, she'll walk right into a storm. I stood up slowly. Are you sure? Very. A chill ran through me. Abena was about to sacrifice her happiness, and her safety, for her aunt's sake. I have to warn her, I said. Kojo grabbed my arm. Be careful. If this Kwesi man is dangerous, exposing him could backfire. I pulled free, determination burning in my chest. I don't care. I won't let her walk into a trap. As I drove through the quiet streets toward Abena's neighborhood that night, rain began to fall again, soft at first, then heavier until it blurred the road ahead. My heart raced. When I reached her house, the lights were out, but I saw her silhouette through the window, packing clothes into a small bag. She was leaving. I stepped out of the car and called her name. Abena. She turned, startled, her eyes wide with fear and surprise. What are you doing here? She asked, stepping outside under the rain. Abena, you can't marry Kwesi, I said, shouting over the downpour. He's not who you think he is. She froze. What are you talking about? He's a criminal. He's using you. Please listen to me. She shook her head, tears mixing with rain. You've done enough, Kwame. You've lied to me, humiliated me. Don't make this harder. Abena, please. Before I could finish, a black SUV pulled up beside us, its headlights blinding. A tall man stepped out, his voice cold. Is there a problem here? Abena whispered, That's him? Kwesi. He looked at me sharply, his expression unreadable. Ah, he said slowly. So you're the one trying to steal my fiancée. I took a step forward. You're deceiving her. Kwesi smiled thinly. And you, Mr. Ofori, are playing a dangerous game. The rain poured harder, thunder rumbling above us. Abena stood between us, trembling. And in that moment I knew, this was no longer just about love. It was a battle for the truth. The rain came down in heavy sheets, blurring everything into shades of gray. I could barely see Abena's face through the curtain of water, but I saw the fear in her eyes. She stood frozen between us, me drenched and desperate, and Kwesi calm and cold beneath his black umbrella. He stepped closer, his shoes splashing in the puddles. You're making quite a scene, Mr. Ofori, he said, his voice smooth and mocking. Do billionaires often chase school teachers through the rain? I clenched my fist. Stay away from her, Kwesi. You're lying to her. He chuckled softly. Lying? That's rich, coming from a man who pretended to be a pauper. Tell me, Kwame, which lie is bigger, mine or yours? Abena turned to me, her voice breaking. Please stop. Both of you. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Abena, I said, you don't know who this man really is. He's under investigation. Fraud, land theft, money laundering. Kwesi raised a hand lazily. Baseless rumors from jealous businessmen. You of all people should know, Kwame, that the rich are always targets. I stepped forward. Then let's prove it. Let her see your true face. His smile faded slightly. Careful, Ofori. You're meddling in matters that don't concern you. They concern me when the woman I love is about to destroy her life. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Abena gasped softly. Kwesi's eyes narrowed. Love? He repeated, his tone dripping with disdain. You think you love her? You barely know her. I know enough, I said. I know she deserves truth. He took a step closer, his umbrella tilting forward until it nearly touched my chest. And what do you deserve, Mr. Ofori? A medal for deception? Or perhaps pity for falling for a woman you can't buy? Kwesi, enough. Abena shouted, tears mingling with rain. He looked at her, his tone softening but his eyes still sharp. My dear, get inside. You shouldn't be out here. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly. Not until I understand what's happening. Kwesi sighed, closing his umbrella and letting the rain drench him. Very well. Since the truth is what everyone wants tonight, let's tell it. He turned to me. Yes, I've made enemies in business. Yes, I've taken risks, but nothing illegal. You, on the other hand, lied your way into this woman's life. You manipulated her emotions for sport. I took a step forward. I never played with her heart. Abena's voice trembled. Both of you have deceived me. One hides wealth, the other hides sin. What am I supposed to believe? Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a thunderclap that shook the air. For a moment no one spoke. Then Kwesi smiled again, a cold, dangerous smile. You should believe your family, Abena. Your aunt knows I'm the only one who can keep her from losing her home. That's why you'll marry me, not because of love but because it's the smart thing to do. Abena's face fell. You threatened my aunt? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Rage boiled inside me. I grabbed his arm. You're a coward hiding behind an old woman's struggle. He yanked his arm free and sneered. Watch your tone, Ofori. You may have money but I have power, the kind that doesn't make headlines. Before I could respond, a woman's voice called from the doorway. Abena. We turned. Aunt Efua stood there, clutching her shawl against the rain, her face drawn with worry. Please, she said softly, come inside, my child. Enough shouting. Abena hesitated, then walked slowly toward her aunt. I watched her go, my chest tightening with every step she took away from me. Kwesi followed close behind, his smug expression barely hidden. Just before she disappeared inside, Abena turned to me, her voice trembling. Kwame, please leave. I can't handle this tonight. Her words stung more than any insult could. Abena. Please, she repeated, tears in her eyes. Just go. I stood there for a long moment, the rain pounding on my shoulders until she finally closed the door. Kojo was waiting when I got home, pacing in the living room. You're soaked, he exclaimed. What happened? I dropped onto the couch, water dripping onto the floor. He confronted me. Kwesi. He's dangerous, Kojo. He's got Abena trapped. Kojo frowned. We can't go to the police yet, not without proof. Then we'll get proof, I said, my jaw tight. I want every file on this man. His businesses, his transactions, everything. Kojo nodded grimly. I'll have my guy look into it. As he left the room, Madame Ajoa appeared with a towel and warm tea. Ah, Kwame, she sighed, shaking her head. You've entered a storm. Love is sweet, but when mixed with pride and power, it becomes bitter medicine. I took the tea, my hands trembling. I can't let her marry him. Not like this. She gave me a long, thoughtful look. Then fight. But fight with wisdom, not anger. The heart can win battles that the tongue cannot. Her words lingered with me long after she left the room. The next morning, Kojo returned with a folder in his hand and a grim look on his face. You were right, he said, dropping the file onto my desk. Kwesi Owusu is knee-deep in criminal dealings. He's been using his company as a front for land fraud, selling plots that don't belong to him. 3 lawsuits are pending, but he's bribed his way out of every one. I scanned the documents, my anger simmering. Does Abena know? Kojo shook his head. Doubt it. If she did, she wouldn't still be considering the marriage. I slammed the file shut. Then she'll know today. When I reached Abena's house that evening, her aunt was sitting outside, roasting plantains over a small charcoal fire. She looked up, her eyes narrowing. Ah, Mr. Ofori, she said coolly. So the rich man returns. I greeted her respectfully. Good evening, Auntie. Please, I need to see Abena. She's not home, she said quickly. Something in her tone told me she was lying. Auntie, please. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to protect her. She sighed, poking at the charcoal. You've already caused enough. That man Kwesi, he may not be good, but he promised to take care of us. Do you know how long I've struggled? Selling groundnuts just to pay rent? You rich people talk of truth and love, but love doesn't pay bills. I crouched beside her. Auntie Efua, I understand struggle. My mother grew up in poverty before my father met her. But Abena's happiness should not be traded for survival. I can help you, not because I want to buy her love, but because I owe her peace. She looked at me long and hard. For the first time, her expression softened slightly. You sound like your mother, she murmured. She once bought from me in the market long ago, humble woman though she was rich. She looked away, her voice trembling. If you truly care for Abena, save her. That man's eyes, they're cold like a snake. I stood. Then tell me where she is. She hesitated, then whispered, she went to his house to talk about the wedding. My heart sank. Where? She pointed toward the main road. Near Labwan. A big white house. Without another word, I thanked her and ran to my car. When I arrived at Kwesi's mansion, the gates were half open. I could see lights flickering inside. My gut twisted. Something didn't feel right. I stepped inside quietly, rain beginning to fall again, the scent of wet earth thick in the air. Voices echoed from the living room. You can't do this, Kwesi. Abena's voice, frightened, defiant. I can do whatever I please, he said, his tone icy. You think you can humiliate me in front of Ofori and still walk away? I moved closer, heart pounding. Through the half-open door, I saw Abena standing near the sofa, tears streaming down her face. Kwesi towered over her, a glass of whiskey in one hand. You will marry me, he said. Your aunt depends on me. And if you try to leave, I'll make sure she suffers. That was enough. I pushed the door open. Touch her and you'll regret it. Kwesi turned sharply, surprise flashing across his face before twisting into a sneer. You again. Abena gasped. Kwame, no. He set down the glass, smiling darkly. Brave of you to come alone. I stepped forward. It's over, Kwesi. I know everything. The land fraud, the fake deeds, the bribed officers. I've already sent copies of the evidence to the police. For the first time his mask cracked. You're bluffing. Try me. He lunged suddenly, grabbing my shirt collar, but I shoved him back hard. The glass shattered on the floor and Abena screamed. Before things could go further, sirens wailed outside, flashing blue and red lights slicing through the rain. Kwesi froze. No. 2 police officers stormed in. Mr. Kwesi Owusu, you are under arrest for fraud and extortion. Abena stared in shock as they handcuffed him. He turned toward her, his eyes full of fury. You'll regret this, he spat before they dragged him out. The door slammed. The rain grew louder. Abena sank onto the sofa, shaking. Kwame, what have you done? I knelt beside her, gently taking her hands. What I should have done long ago, protect you. She looked at me, tears glistening. You shouldn't have risked yourself. I smiled faintly. Some risks are worth it. For the first time in weeks, she smiled through her tears. You're impossible. And you're unforgettable, I whispered. But just as peace began to settle in, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, her face went pale. It's my aunt, she murmured. She answered, and within seconds her expression turned to horror. What? No, auntie, please. I grabbed her hand. What happened? She looked at me, her voice breaking. Kwesi's men, they've taken her. The cup fell from my hand. The storm outside roared louder. The rain hadn't stopped since the night Kwesi was arrested. It poured down endlessly as if the heavens themselves were mourning. I watched it through the car window, my heart pounding, while Abena sat beside me, trembling. She said they took her, Abena whispered, gripping her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Kwame, they took Aunt Efua. What if? I reached for her hand. We'll find her. I promise. She turned to me, eyes glistening with fear. Promises don't stop bullets, Kwame. The word stung, but she was right. Whoever Kwesi had working for him wasn't ordinary. Even from behind bars, his influence stretched far. Kojo's voice crackled over the speaker. Boss, I've traced a signal from the aunt's phone, somewhere near Tima Industrial Area. But we'll need backup. Those aren't regular men. I nodded. I'm on my way. Abena looked at me sharply. You're not leaving me behind. Abena, it's too dangerous. Her voice rose. She's my aunt, Kwame. She raised me when no one else would. If you're going, I'm going. I saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire that had drawn me to her from the very first day. I sighed. Fine. But you stay close. No matter what happens. She nodded, tears and rain blending on her face. We arrived at the edge of the Tima yards just before midnight. The air was thick with diesel and damp earth. Broken streetlights flickered above the warehouses. Kojo's van was parked nearby. He stepped out, carrying a small duffel bag. They're holding her inside that compound, he said, pointing toward a warehouse guarded by 2 armed men. Abena gasped. They have guns. Kojo nodded grimly. Not toys either. I turned to Abena. Stay in the car. Please. She hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Kojo unzipped the bag, revealing a flashlight, some rope, and a crowbar. No guns, I said. He smirked. You and your billionaire conscience. Just get us in. We crept through the shadows, moving along the perimeter fence until we found a loose metal sheet. Kojo pried it open silently and we slipped inside. Inside the warehouse, the air reeked of oil and old machinery. I could hear muffled voices ahead. Then, a woman's cry. Abena's aunt. Kojo motioned toward a stack of crates. She's there. We moved closer until we could see her, Aunt Efua, tied to a chair, her head bowed. Two men stood nearby, talking in low tones. The boss said we wait till morning, one said. When his lawyer calls, we move her. The other grunted. He better pay well. I'm not doing time for this. Kojo signaled. I'll distract them. You get her out. Before I could respond, Abena's voice cut through the silence. Auntie. She'd left the car. The guard spun around. Hey. Who's there? Everything erupted at once. Kojo lunged forward, tackling one of them to the ground. The other raised his gun. I grabbed a metal pipe and swung, knocking it from his hand. Abena ran to her aunt, frantically untying the ropes. Kwame, hurry, she cried. I turned, just in time to see the first man pull a knife from his pocket. He slashed at me, grazing my arm. Pain burned through me, but I grabbed his wrist, twisted hard, and shoved him against a crate. The blade clattered to the ground. Kojo landed a punch that sent the other sprawling. Go, he shouted. Get them out. I grabbed Abena and Aunt Efua, guiding them toward the exit. The aunt was weak, barely able to stand. Outside the rain was heavier now, blinding, relentless. I helped them into the car just as Kojo stumbled out behind me. Go, boss, he yelled. I'll cover. Kojo. He waved me off. I'll find you. Just move. I slammed the door and hit the accelerator. Tires screeched on the wet ground. As we sped away, gunshots rang out behind us. Abena screamed. Kojo. I didn't answer. My focus was on getting them to safety. We reached an old guest house on the outskirts of Accra just before dawn. I carried Aunt Efua inside, laying her gently on the bed. She was shaking, her voice hoarse. Thank you, she whispered weakly. He said he'd make me disappear if Abena didn't obey. Abena broke down in tears, clutching her aunt's hand. You're safe now. It's over. But deep down I knew it wasn't over. Kwesi might be behind bars, but his reach went far beyond prison walls. Later that morning Kojo called. His voice was strained but alive. I'm fine. Just a graze. But listen, it's not just Kwesi. There's someone bigger funding everything. Someone called the general. The general? I repeated. Yeah. He's the one moving the money, laundering through Kwesi's projects. He's also the one who signed off on the abduction. My chest tightened. Do we know who he is? Not yet, Kojo said. But rumor is he's connected to the government. I looked at Abena sitting beside her aunt, wiping her tears. Then we're not done. We go higher. Kojo sighed. You sure about this? The higher we go, the dirtier it gets. I'm sure, I said. No one threatens my family. Days passed in uneasy quiet. Aunt Efua began to recover, though she rarely slept without nightmares. Abena stayed close to her, helping her eat, praying softly at night. Sometimes she'd catch me watching her from the doorway. Our eyes would meet, and for a moment, everything else would fade. One evening she came to find me sitting on the balcony, looking out over the city lights. You haven't slept in days, she said softly. I'm fine, I replied, though I wasn't. She sat beside me, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. Kwame, why do you care so much? You could have walked away. Let me handle my mess. I turned to her. Because when I met you, I saw someone I wanted to protect. Not out of pity but respect. You remind me that there's more to life than profit and status. You make me feel human again. Her eyes glistened. And what if your world can't handle mine? Then I'll build one that can, I said quietly. She looked away, smiling faintly through her tears. You say things like a movie? Maybe because this feels like one. She laughed softly, the first real laugh in days. Then her face grew serious. Kojo called earlier. He said the general might make a move soon. I nodded. Then we'll be ready. Abena took my hand. Together? Always. 3 nights later, Kojo sent a message. Meet me at the docks. 2 a.m. The general's shipment arrives tonight. I showed Abena the text. Her hand tightened around mine. You can't go alone. I'm not, I said. We're going together, but you stay hidden. She frowned. You really think I'll stay hidden? I smiled slightly. No. But I had to try. The docks were silent except for the waves slapping against the pillars. Containers loomed in the dark, stacked like sleeping giants. Kojo appeared from the shadows. There, he whispered, pointing to a silver truck near the water. That's the shipment. Documents inside linked the general to Kwesi's laundering. We moved closer, crouching behind a container. 2 men were unloading boxes, speaking in hushed tones. Then a familiar voice. Kwesi. I froze. Impossible. He's in custody. Kojo cursed under his breath. He must have bribed his way out. Kwesi stepped into view, dressed in a dark suit, flanked by guards. The general wants results, he said coldly. Once the shipment leaves Ghana, no one can trace it back to us. Abena's hand tightened on my arm. That's him. I whispered, stay here. I crept closer, snapping a quick photo of the scene. Suddenly, a flashlight beam swept across the containers. Hey, who's there? I bolted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets ricocheted off metal. Kojo returned fire with a flare gun, sending sparks across the dock. Run, he yelled. Abena screamed my name. I turned, and saw Kwesi aiming straight at her. I dove forward, pushing her out of the way. The gun went off. Pain exploded through my shoulder. I hit the ground hard. Kwame. Abena screamed, falling beside me. Kwesi's face twisted with fury. You should have stayed in your mansion, Ofori. Now you'll die in the gutter. He raised the gun again, but before he could shoot, sirens wailed. Police vans screeched into the dock. Officers poured out, guns drawn. Kwesi froze, then dropped his weapon as they surrounded him. Kojo stepped forward, holding up the photos. Got everything on camera. You're finished, Kwesi. Abena cradled my head in her lap, tears streaming. Stay with me, please. I managed a faint smile through the pain. Told you, promises do stop bullets. She laughed through her sobs. You're crazy. Maybe, I whispered. But I'd do it again. Days later, I woke in a hospital bed. The morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and golden. Abena sat beside me, her eyes tired but full of relief. Kojo says the general's been arrested, she said. Kwesi too, this time for good. I exhaled slowly. It's finally over. She smiled faintly. Almost. There's one thing left. What's that? She leaned closer, whispering, You never asked if I'd still love a man who lied about being rich. I looked at her, smiling weakly. Would you? She kissed my forehead. I don't love your money, Kwame. I love your heart. Outside, a cross skyline glimmered, a new dawn breaking over the city. For the first time in months I felt peace. Not the peace of wealth or victory but of love, raw, tested, and real. 3 weeks had passed since the chaos at the docks. The city of Accra had gone back to its rhythm. Traffic roaring down Oxford Street, hawkers calling out, pure water. Kelawheel hot. And radio hosts gossiping about scandals. But in every conversation one name kept echoing, mine. Billionaire pretends to be homeless to test fiancée's love. Ofori family embroiled in corruption scandal. From riches to rags, the billionaire who deceived everyone. The headlines were merciless. My phone buzzed with messages from investors, board members, even old classmates who suddenly found moral ground. They didn't see the truth, that I'd risked everything to expose the general and save the woman I loved. All they saw was the story that had been sold to the press. And the most painful part? That story came from inside my own company. I sat in my office at Ofori Holdings, staring out at the city skyline. The morning sun reflected off the glass towers, mocking me with its brightness. Abena sat across the desk, flipping through newspaper clippings. Kwame, you can't keep ignoring this. They're dragging your name every day. Do something. Her voice trembled with worry. I've done something, I said quietly. I traced the leak. She looked up. You found who did it? I nodded slowly. Kojo. Her breath caught. Kojo? Your brother? My only brother, I said bitterly. He sold confidential documents to the Ghanaian Tribune. Emails, board memos, even personal messages between us. Abena shook her head in disbelief. No, Kwame. Kojo loves you. He risked his life for us at the dock. I clenched my jaw. And maybe that's why it hurts more. Silence filled the office. The hum of the air conditioner was the only sound. Finally, Abena whispered, maybe he had a reason. Talk to him before you judge. I nodded faintly. I intend to. That evening, I found myself driving toward Kojo's apartment in East Legon. Rain clouds had gathered above the city, dark and heavy. The first drops began to fall as I parked. Kojo opened the door before I even knocked. He looked tired, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. The confident younger brother I'd always known looked defeated. Kwame, he said softly. I figured you'd come. I stepped inside. The living room was dim, cluttered with papers, bottles, and half-eaten food. You sold me out, I said flatly. He didn't deny it. He just sank into a chair, rubbing his face. You found out. I stood there, anger rising. You sold our company secrets. You destroyed everything we built, Kojo. Why? He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. We built? No, Kwame. You built it. I just followed in your shadow. I frowned. What are you talking about? You've always been the golden son, he said, eyes burning with resentment. Father's pride. Mother's darling. Even Madame Ajoa used to say, Kojo, learn from your brother. He's destined for greatness. He stood pacing. And I tried, Kwame. I worked twice as hard. But no matter what I did, I was always second best. You never noticed, did you? I swallowed hard. That's not true. Isn't it? He turned sharply. When you became CEO, you promised we'd lead together. But then you sent me off to that useless real estate project in Kumasi, like I was some intern. That project was failing, I said. I trusted you to fix it. He snorted. No. You sent me away so you could shine alone. I stepped closer. Kojo, you think selling me out to the press was justice? He looked at me, eyes glistening. It was revenge. The rain outside grew heavier, pounding against the windows like drums. I took a deep breath, fighting to steady my voice. Do you know what your revenge cost me? The board wants me out. Investors are pulling out millions. And Abena, she's been humiliated publicly. He looked away. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But it did. I shouted. The room went silent except for the sound of rain. Kojo sank back into the chair, burying his face in his hands. I was broke, Kwame. The Tribune offered me $50,000 for the story. I thought I could pay off my debts before you ever found out. I stared at him, this man I'd shared a childhood with, who'd once cried when our mother died, who'd sworn he'd protect me just as I'd protect him. 50,000, I whispered. You sold your brother's soul for 50,000. He looked up, tears in his eyes. I made a mistake. No, Kojo, I said coldly. You made a choice. When I left his apartment, the rain was a storm. The sky roared as lightning split through the clouds. I walked to my car, soaked, shaking, not from the cold but from betrayal. Abena called just as I started the engine. Kwame, where are you? Leaving Kojo's. She hesitated. How did it go? I sighed. He admitted everything. Silence. Then softly, I'm sorry. I swallowed hard. He said he needed money. But that's not all. He hates me, Abena. My own brother hates me. You're angry now, she said gently. But hate doesn't erase blood. You'll forgive him one day. I shook my head. Not this time. The next morning the storm had cleared, but my soul was heavier than ever. I walked into Ofori Holdings and every step felt like a walk through judgment. Employees avoided my eyes. Some whispered. Others simply stared, unsure if I was still their boss. In the boardroom the directors sat waiting, faces stiff and cautious. Kwame, said Mr. Boateng, the chairman, we appreciate what you've done for the company. But this scandal? I know, I cut in. You want my resignation. He hesitated. It might restore confidence. I nodded slowly. Fine. I'll step down, temporarily. But I won't abandon what we built. I'll prove my innocence, and when I do, I'll come back stronger. The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Boateng said, we'll hold your position for 90 days. I stood. Thank you. That's all I need. Outside, Abena waited in the lobby, her hands clasped tightly. Well? I'm stepping down, I said. She gasped. Kwame. I'll rebuild from the ground up. Just like when I disguised myself. Only this time it's not a test, it's redemption. She reached for my hand. You won't do it alone. I smiled faintly. You're still here? Where else would I be, she said softly. We've been through worse. I wanted to believe that. That night, I sat alone on the balcony of my penthouse, staring at the lights of Accra below. I could hear distant music from a chop bar, Daddy Lumba, playing on an old speaker. Madame Majoa appeared with a tray of soup. "You haven't eaten since morning," she said. "Not hungry," I murmured. She sighed. "You and Kojo were once inseparable. I still remember the two of you running around the compound, fighting over who would wash the car." "What happened, Kwame?" I swallowed hard. "Ambition happened." She nodded slowly. "Family is like nkansen, the Kent cloth. Each thread matters no matter how small. When one thread breaks, the whole cloth weakens." I closed my eyes, her words sinking deep. "I don't know if I can forgive him, Madame Majoa." She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Then at least try to understand him. Sometimes, love means seeing pain where you expected evil." I didn't answer. The city lights blurred through my tears. 2 days later, a knock came at my door. I opened it, and there stood Kojo. His eyes were red, his clothes damp. "What do you want?" I asked sharply. He hesitated. "To say goodbye." I frowned. "Goodbye." He nodded. "I'm leaving Ghana. I got an offer in South Africa. I figured you'd prefer it that way." I said nothing. He looked down. "I was wrong, Kwame. About everything. I thought exposing you would make me feel powerful, but it just made me feel smaller. You're my brother and I betrayed you. I can't undo that, but I hope one day you'll remember me as more than your enemy." He turned to leave. I called out, "Kojo." He paused at the doorway. "Stay safe," I said quietly. He gave a sad smile. "You too, big brother." And then he was gone. That night, Abena joined me on the balcony again. "You let him go," she said softly. "I had to. Some wounds need distance to heal." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "You'll forgive him one day." "Maybe," I said. "But not tonight." Thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, though the sky was clear. Somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end of our story. Kojo's departure felt too quiet, too sudden, like the calm before another storm. And as the lights of Accra flickered below, I couldn't shake the feeling that my brother's betrayal was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. The morning sun cut through the humid Accra air like a knife, illuminating the Ofori family estate in golden light. But inside, the warmth of the sun couldn't touch the cold weight pressing on my chest. Kojo's betrayal had left a hole in my heart, one I wasn't sure any apology could fill. Abena sat beside me in the study, her hand resting gently on mine. She didn't speak, didn't need to. I felt her presence as a tether, a reminder that while blood might fracture, love could still hold. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the cracks that had formed over decades. For the first time, I realized how fragile trust truly was, not just in business but in the people you loved most. Kojo had been my shadow, my brother, my partner in mischief and dreams. And yet, in one desperate moment, he had thrown it all away. "Kwame," Abena said softly, her voice cutting through the silence, "you can't let anger rule you. He's your brother. He made a mistake, yes, but he's still Kojo." I turned to her, eyes burning. "Do you know what it feels like, Abena? To realize the person you've trusted most is the one who brought your world crumbling down?" She squeezed my hand. "I can't imagine. But I can see the man you are, strong, wise, compassionate. Don't let anger take that from you." I exhaled slowly, letting her words sink in. I wanted to scream, to punish Kojo, to make him feel the weight of his choices. But as I looked at Abena, I understood that vengeance would only make me smaller. Later that evening, I found Kojo sitting on the balcony, staring at the city lights. His shoulders were slumped, and for the first time in my life, he seemed small, not the confident, brash brother I had known, but a man carrying the unbearable weight of his own guilt. "Kwame," he said without looking at me, "I knew you'd come." I remained standing, silent. Words felt useless, heavy. Finally I asked, "Why, Kojo? Why betray me like that?" He flinched as if my words struck him physically. I didn't know how else to be seen, Kwame. You were always the golden son, the one everyone noticed, the one who succeeded. And I was always the shadow. I thought if I could make you stumble, even for a moment, maybe I'd feel important." I felt a pang in my chest. The boy I had teased for hiding under the table during our childhood games, the one who always wanted my father's approval, had carried that ache into adulthood. "You risked everything, our family, our company, our name," I said quietly. "For what? A fleeting sense of recognition?" He looked up at me, tears glinting in his eyes. I'm sorry. I thought I could fix it before you found out. I was wrong. I see that now." I sighed, my body trembling with exhaustion and emotion. Kojo, mistakes can be forgiven but choices have consequences. He nodded, swallowing hard. I understand. I'll accept whatever you decide. Even if you never speak to me again. Madame Ajoa appeared then, as if she had silently been observing the scene from the doorway. Her shawl hung loosely over her shoulders, her eyes wise and soft. Kwame, she said gently, the tree that shelters you can still wound you if you lean too hard. Kojo is your branch, bent, broken but still part of the same tree. The question is, do you let him fall or do you catch him? I closed my eyes. Her words struck a chord deep in my heart. Anger had been my instinct, but compassion, that would be my strength. I opened my eyes and looked at Kojo. You're going to leave. He flinched. Leave? You're not sending me away? I can't risk the company or my own heart by keeping you here, I said. You need time to reflect. Time to understand the damage you've caused. He nodded slowly, eyes downcast. I understand. Go quietly, I added. No drama. No more lies. At dawn the next morning, Kojo packed a small bag. His movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. Before he left, he walked to my desk and placed a carved wooden lion, our childhood keepsake, on top. You kept it all these years, he said softly. I hope it reminds you of the boy I once was, not the man who betrayed you. I stared at the lion, the intricate carvings glinting in the soft morning light. Memories of our childhood flooded back. Laughing under the mango tree, racing along the driveway, pretending we were kings of the world. He hesitated, looking at me with a vulnerability I had never seen. I'm sorry, Kwame. Truly. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Go, Kojo. Be better. Find yourself. And then he was gone. Abena came up beside me, placing her hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. I shook my head. I don't know if it was right. I just did what I could. Sometimes that's all you can do. She leaned against me. You showed him mercy. That strength, Kwame. Not everyone would forgive a brother who betrayed them. I closed my eyes, letting the rain from the night before echo in my mind. Betrayal had cut deep, but letting go, letting him leave on his own terms, that was my first step toward healing. The city was waking now. Horns blared on Oxford Street, children shouted as they played in puddles, and hawkers began their morning calls. Life went on, indifferent to our pain, indifferent to our struggles. I looked at Abena and felt a quiet gratitude. She had been my anchor through the storm, my reminder that love, true love, could endure the harshest trials. Kwame, she said softly, you'll get through this. You'll rebuild. And Kojo, he'll learn from his mistakes. Maybe one day he'll come back. I nodded, still staring at the wooden lion on my desk. Maybe. I hope so. For the first time in weeks, I felt a fragile peace. Not complete, not healed, but a beginning. Madame Ajoa appeared one last time before leaving for the day. Remember, Kwame, she said, her voice gentle, mercy is a bridge. Walk it carefully, and it may lead you home, and bring others back to you. I held the lion in my hands, feeling the smooth wood under my fingers. Kojo's absence was painful, but it was not permanent. Like the threads of a Kent cloth, the bonds of family were stretched, frayed, but never truly broken. And as the morning sun bathed Accra in light, I realized something. Betrayal might wound, but forgiveness could heal, if we dared to take the first step. The morning sun shone on Accra's skyline, but it felt cold through the glass walls of my office. Ofori Holdings, once a beacon of success, now bore the bruises of scandal. The headlines still whispered through the city streets, though the intensity had dulled slightly. Yet the work to rebuild had only just begun. Abena arrived early as she had been every morning since Kojo's departure. She moved with quiet authority, carrying a leather-bound notebook and a laptop, ready to strategize. I had to remind myself every day, I wasn't alone in this. Kwame, I've reviewed the financials overnight, she said, setting her notebook on the table. If we cut unnecessary expenditures and renegotiate some supplier contracts, we can stabilize cash flow within a month. But we need a bold move, something that restores investor confidence. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the city below. You're talking about risk. A high-profile risk that could either make or break us. She nodded. Exactly. And we don't have the luxury of playing safe anymore. I studied her face. Even after weeks of chaos, her eyes were steady, sharp. She wasn't just my fiancée anymore. She had become a partner, a force. All right. Let's do it, I said finally. But we do it together. She smiled faintly, her hand brushing mine. Always. By mid-morning, our first challenge arrived in the form of Madame Mensa, a rival investor known for her ruthless business tactics. She had built an empire in shipping and logistics, and now, with Ofori Holdings weakened, she smelled opportunity. Her visit was formal at first, a polite handshake, a warm smile. "Kwame, Abena, I hear you're in the process of restoring your company." Fascinating. But behind her words was steel. Sharp eyes, calculating. She was here to test us. "I'm always looking for strategic partnerships," I said cautiously, maintaining composure. "Though Ofori Holdings is a private family enterprise, we are open to collaboration that benefits both parties." Abena leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "Kwame and I are committed to the company's future. We appreciate the advice, Madame Mensa, but the Ofori family handles its affairs with integrity. We don't compromise." Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes flicked toward the boardroom monitors, scanning for weaknesses. "Integrity," she said slowly, almost like a warning. "A fine word, Mr. Ofori. Let's see how long it holds in practice." Even as she left, I could feel the tension she left behind, like a shadow stretching across the office. For the next week, Abena and I worked tirelessly. Late nights blurred into early mornings, and every strategy session tested our patience, our wits, and our resilience. Abena's presence was grounding. I remembered the night we first met in her grandmother's courtyard, laughing under strings of lanterns, the sound of our city in the distance. Now those memories fueled our determination. We had survived scandal, betrayal, and danger. We could survive corporate warfare too. "Kwame," she said one evening as we pored over projections in the boardroom, "this company isn't just about profit. It's about people, the employees who believe in us, the families who rely on us. That's what keeps investors loyal when times get rough." I nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "You're right. If we remind people why we exist, not just how much money we make, we'll endure." She smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from my forehead. "Exactly. And we do it together." The first major victory came when we renegotiated a crucial contract with a supplier who had threatened to pull out. Abena's persuasive diplomacy impressed even me. She didn't just negotiate, she inspired loyalty. Later, in the quiet of my office, I turned to her. "You know, when all this began, I doubted whether I could handle the pressure. But seeing you step up, I don't just respect you, I trust you." She laughed softly, leaning against my desk. "Kwame, trust is earned, not given. And you've earned mine." I swallowed, feeling my chest tighten. "I've earned yours even after all the deception I put you through?" Her eyes softened. "We all have past mistakes. What matters is what we do now." But peace, as always, was fleeting. On the 8th day, a plain envelope appeared in my office, slipped under the door. No return address. I picked it up, curiosity and dread twisting together. Inside was a single note, typed neatly. "If you want to save Ofori Holdings, you must confront the traitor, before it's too late." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Abena came in at that moment. "Kwame, what is it?" I held up the note. "Someone inside our company is feeding information to Madame Mensa. Someone we trust." Her eyes widened. "Someone on the board?" I shook my head. "I don't know yet. But whoever it is, they've been playing a dangerous game. And now, we have to stop them before the damage becomes irreversible." She placed her hand on mine. "We've survived worse. Together we can handle this too." I took a deep breath. "Yes, together." The night deepened, and Accra settled into its usual rhythm. The distant hum of traffic, the occasional honking horn, the soft chatter of late-night vendors, all seemed ordinary, but to me, every sound carried a hint of tension. Someone in our circle had betrayed us. And that meant that our fight wasn't just against Madame Mensa, it was against our own shadows. Abena sat across from me, reviewing the board meeting notes. "Kwame, we need a plan. We can't just react. We have to be proactive, trace every leak, every whisper, every move made to undermine us." I nodded. "Agreed. And whoever it is, they will regret underestimating us." Her hand brushed mine again. "Kwame, don't let this consume you. You've been through so much already. We need to remain strong together." I looked at her, feeling a surge of gratitude and love. "You're right. We can't fight with anger alone. Strategy, patience, resilience, that's our weapon." The following day, I held an emergency board meeting. Each member's face was tense, cautious. Madame Mensa's influence was still palpable, even though she wasn't physically present. "I've called this meeting to address a serious concern," I began. "We've reason to believe someone within our trusted circle has been sharing company information with an outside party. This is not only illegal but a betrayal of trust. Whispers spread across the room. Eyes flicked nervously toward one another. I continued, I don't know who it is yet, but I will find out. And when I do, they will be held accountable. The Ofori legacy will not be destroyed from within. Abena squeezed my hand under the table. Her support steadied me as I faced the room full of tension, suspicion, and uncertainty. Hours later, after the board dispersed, I returned to my office. Accra's skyline glimmered in the dusk, the city lights a mix of hope and challenge. Abena stayed behind, reviewing financial reports, her face calm and focused. I leaned back in my chair, the envelope from the previous night still in my hand. Whoever the traitor was, I knew this would be a long game. I could already sense the chessboard being set, every move measured, every misstep potentially catastrophic. Abena looked up. Kwame will get through this. We always do. I nodded, staring out at the city below. Yes, we always do. But someone I trust has already made their move. And I fear their next move will come sooner than we expect. Her hand found mine once more. Then we'll be ready. Together. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting her presence anchor me. Betrayal, scandal, corporate threats. Nothing could break us if we remained united. But in the back of my mind, a cold thought lingered. The traitor was closer than I realized. Someone I counted on, someone I trusted implicitly. And the next move would be devastating. The city of Accra buzzed with life outside the Ofori Holdings Tower, but inside, the boardroom felt like a storm waiting to break. I could feel it in the tension of the air, the subtle glances, the half-smiles that betrayed secrets. Someone inside my own company was feeding Madame Mensah information, and that someone had been close to me for years. Abena sat beside me, her notebook open, fingers poised. Her calm focus steadied me, but my mind raced through the possibilities. Every executive, every trusted advisor, even Nana Akoto. My eyes narrowed as I thought of him. Nana Akoto had been a friend of my father, a mentor, almost a second father to me. Could he betray us? Could he be the one threatening everything? Abena's voice cut through my thoughts. Kwame, we have to look at the patterns. The emails, the file accesses, the suspicious phone calls, they all point to someone with inside knowledge and access. I nodded, running my fingers over the edge of the mahogany table. Someone with access, someone I never suspected. She pointed to her laptop. Look at this sequence. Only someone in senior management could have pulled these documents and sent them to Madame Mensah's office. And there's a timestamp pattern, coinciding with Nana Akoto's trips to the bank, meetings outside the office, and most importantly when Kojo was already in South Africa. My heart sank. Nana? It couldn't be. Not him. We devised a plan. I would confront him in the boardroom, Abena would monitor communications, and we'd catch him red-handed. That afternoon Nana arrived, his usual confident smile in place. Kwame, Abena, he said warmly. I hear the company is thriving despite the recent turbulence. Sit down, Nana, I said, keeping my voice steady. We need to discuss some serious matters. His brow furrowed slightly. Serious matters? I gestured to the empty chair across from me. Do you know anything about confidential company documents that have been leaked to Madame Mensah? His smile faltered, just slightly but enough for me to notice. Leaked documents? That's a serious accusation, Kwame. Surely you have evidence? I nodded. Yes. Evidence that traces the leaks to someone with your access, Nana. The emails, the file downloads, even timestamps that match your movements. Abena has compiled everything. Abena turned her laptop toward him, the screen displaying a series of emails and logs. His eyes flicked across them and I saw the first signs of defensiveness. I don't know how these things got there, he said, voice smooth but tight. Perhaps someone is trying to frame me. I leaned forward, feeling the anger and betrayal rise like a storm inside me. Nana, I trusted you. You were more than an executive. You were family. And yet you chose to betray that trust. Why? He sighed, leaning back, eyes avoiding mine. Kwame, you've always been the golden one, haven't you? Father, the board, even your employees, everyone worships you. And what of me? Always in the background, overlooked, underestimated. I gave you advice, loyalty, years of service, and for what? I shook my head, trying to make sense of his words. Jealousy? So you decided to risk everything? Risk the company, risk our family name for revenge. He looked at me with a mixture of sadness and defiance. Not revenge. Recognition. If I couldn't stand in the light, then I would pull others into the shadows with me. Madame Mensah approached me first. She offered influence, opportunities. I thought I could negotiate. control the situation. But things spiraled out of my control, Kwame. I never meant for it to go this far. Abena's voice was steady but sharp. You underestimated how quickly this could destroy us. How quickly it could destroy everything Kwame built. He nodded slowly. I know. I see that now. And I regret it. I closed my eyes for a moment, trying to hold back the surge of emotion. Anger, betrayal, sadness, all tangled together. Nana Akoto, a man I had trusted like a father, had been the enemy inside. Abena, I said finally, turning to her, what do we do? This is beyond punishment, it's about securing the company and our people. She looked at me with determination. We remove him from the company. Strategically. No public scandal. We protect Ofori Holdings but make sure he can't harm us again. I nodded. Agreed. Nana, you will leave the company immediately. Your access, your influence, everything, is revoked. You are no longer part of this enterprise. He looked shocked but also strangely calm. Kwame, do you really think I would betray Ofori Holdings? Or have you been blind all along? His words cut deeper than any argument. I realized then that this wasn't just a matter of corporate sabotage. It was about pride, ego, and wounded human emotion. Nana had been clever, careful, and ultimately human in his failings. Blind maybe, I said quietly, but never powerless. You underestimated the loyalty and love that keep this company strong. And you overestimated your ability to manipulate it without consequence. He sighed, standing. Then you leave me no choice but to accept this. I leave not out of fear, Kwame, but because I know you cannot forgive my arrogance, even if you wanted to. I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. Relief because the threat was neutralized. Sorrow because this man had been part of my life for decades. A mentor, a friend, now a stranger in the shadow of betrayal. After Nana left, Abena and I sat in silence for a moment. The weight of the past weeks pressed on us, but there was also a sense of resolve. Kwame, she said softly, we've survived scandal, betrayal from your brother, corporate attacks, and now this. What's next? I looked at her, feeling a swell of gratitude and love. Next is rebuilding. Stronger. Smarter. United. Nothing will break us if we stay together. She smiled faintly, leaning against my shoulder. Together. The city hummed outside, unaware of the storm that had raged within the Ofori Holdings walls. Accra glittered in the night, a mixture of lights, life, and opportunity. And somewhere in the distance, I felt the pulse of the city. A reminder that every challenge could be met with courage, strategy, and love. But even as peace returned, a small envelope appeared on my desk, slipped silently under the door. I picked it up with a wary hand. Inside was a single line typed neatly. The final move is coming. Be ready, Kwame. This is far from over. I looked at Abena, who had entered quietly behind me. Her eyes mirrored my concern. Kwame. Someone is still out there, she said softly. I nodded, gripping the envelope tightly. Yes. And when they move, we will be ready. The city of Accra continued its rhythm outside, but inside me, a storm of anticipation and tension brewed. The enemy was known, but the battle, the final test of love, loyalty, and legacy, was yet to come. The morning light filtered through the Ofori Holdings boardroom, but it did little to ease the tension in the air. After Nana Akoto's departure, the company had regained some semblance of control, yet a lingering threat remained, Madame Mensah. She had tasted blood in the water, and I knew she would strike again, harder and faster. Abena stood beside me, reviewing the latest market reports. Her calm presence was my anchor in the storm. Kwame, Madame Mensah isn't just making a move, she's trying a hostile takeover. She's leveraging her investors and using the media to destabilize our stock. I ran a hand over my face, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down. We can't let her win. Not now. Not after everything. Abena's eyes were sharp, resolute. We won't. We fight smart. Not with anger but with strategy. We reclaim control. The first step was to shore up investor confidence. Abena and I arranged a private meeting with our key shareholders, presenting a clear plan for Ofori Holdings' stability and future growth. Every slide, every word, every gesture had to inspire trust, because the moment doubt crept in, Madame Mensah would pounce. I watched Abena command the room with quiet authority, answering tough questions with clarity and precision. I felt a swell of pride. She wasn't just my fiancée anymore. She was my partner, my equal, my confidant. After the meeting, as we stepped out into the sunlight, she whispered, "They trust us because we've survived worse. Now they see our strength." I nodded, heart swelling. And we've survived because we have each other. Despite our careful planning, Madame Mensah was relentless. Within days she launched a media campaign painting Ofori Holdings as unstable and mismanaged. Rumors spread like wildfire, threatening to scare off clients and investors. That night, Abena and I worked late in the office, crafting press releases, coordinating with loyal media contacts, and preparing a strategic counterattack. Each step required precision. A misstep could cost us everything. "Kwame," Abena said softly, glancing at me, "I've also reached out to Kojo. He's in South Africa but he wants to help," discreetly. I raised an eyebrow. "Kojo? After everything?" She nodded. "He wants to make amends. He has connections there that could help us secure key contracts before Madame Mensah interferes." I hesitated. Part of me still felt the sting of Kojo's betrayal. But another part, the part that believed in second chances, knew that redemption was possible. "All right," I said slowly. "We accept his help. But everything must be cautious, controlled." The next few days were a whirlwind. Kojo sent confidential updates from South Africa, alerting us to potential leaks and insider moves by Madame Mensah's agents. His contributions, though distant, helped us stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, Abena and I fortified our internal communications. Every email, every phone call, every meeting was carefully monitored. Trust had become a currency more valuable than money, and more fragile. One evening, as we reviewed a report on potential threats, Abena looked at me with a mixture of concern and admiration. "Kwame, this storm, it's testing everything. But look at us, we're still standing." I smiled faintly, feeling the truth of her words. "Yes. But storms are meant to test, not destroy. And we will survive this one too." Then came the breakthrough. One of our loyal board members discovered that Madame Mensah had been manipulating a third-party investment firm to buy out shares quietly. Using Kojo's tip, we countered immediately, securing the shares before she could make her move. It was a small victory but a crucial one. Momentum was shifting in our favor. I felt a surge of confidence, tempered by caution. We were winning but the war wasn't over. That night, as Abena and I walked through the quiet streets of Accra, I reflected on how far we had come. Betrayal, corporate sabotage, media attacks. We had faced them all and emerged stronger, united. She squeezed my hand gently. "Kwame, whatever happens, we face it together. That's what makes us unbeatable." I nodded, feeling her words resonate in my chest. "Together?" I echoed. Just as we were beginning to feel some relief, a small envelope appeared on my desk the following morning, identical to the one we had received after Nana's betrayal. I opened it carefully, heart thudding. Inside was a single line typed neatly. "The final move begins at sunrise. Be ready, Kwame. This is your last test." I looked at Abena, who had entered the room behind me. Her eyes widened slightly, a mixture of apprehension and determination. "Kwame, she's escalating. She's going for the final strike," she said. I clenched the envelope tightly, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline. "Then we prepare. Every step, every plan, every move must be flawless. This ends soon, one way or another." Abena placed a hand on my shoulder. "And whatever happens, we face it together. No betrayal, no fear, no hesitation." I looked at her, seeing the unwavering support, the love, the partnership. "Together," I whispered. As the sun rose over Accra the next morning, casting golden light over the city, I realized something. The battle had reached its climax. Madame Mensah was formidable, Nana Akoto had already tested our trust, and Kojo's redemption still hung in the balance. But one thing remained constant: Abena. Her presence, her wisdom, her unwavering support, they were my strength. And together we would face whatever came next. The storm was here. And soon it would either break us, or make us stronger than ever. The first light of dawn crept over Accra, brushing gold across the city skyline. Today was the day, the final act in a drama that had tested everything I held dear. My family, my company, my love, and even my own sense of judgment. Abena and I arrived at the Ofori Holdings office together, our steps synchronized, hearts aligned. She had stayed up all night reviewing contracts, counteroffers, and investor communications. Her presence was more than comforting, it was empowering. I had survived betrayals, corporate attacks, and scandals, but with her by my side I felt unbreakable. "Kwame," she said softly, glancing at me, "this is it. Whatever happens today, we face it together. And we will win, not just for the company but for everyone who believes in us." I nodded, gripping her hand. "Together?" I echoed, letting her courage flow into me. Madame Mensa arrived mid-morning, her usual poise and confidence intact. She had orchestrated her final move, a calculated attempt to acquire a controlling stake in Ofori Holdings before the board could solidify our defense. Her agents had quietly purchased shares, manipulated rumors, and created the illusion of instability. I met her in the boardroom, flanked by Abena and our loyal executives. Madame Mensa, I said, my voice calm but firm, your attempt to destabilize Ofori Holdings ends today. She smiled, a razor-sharp curve. Kwame, you've been resilient, I'll give you that. But resilience alone won't save your company. I took a slow breath. No. Strategy, integrity, and loyalty will. And we have all three. Abena presented our counter-strategy, a series of decisive moves that reclaimed the shares Madame Mensa had tried to buy, exposed her agents, and solidified investor confidence. Every step was precise, every decision backed by evidence and foresight. By midday it was clear. Ofori Holdings had survived the storm. Madame Mensa's final gambit had failed. She left the boardroom with a polite nod, concealing frustration behind her composed exterior. After the corporate battle, the emotional battles began. Kojo reached out from South Africa, arranging a video call. I had been uncertain whether to trust him again, but his actions over the past weeks, discreetly helping secure contracts and sending tips, had earned a small measure of redemption. Kwame, Kojo said, his voice trembling, I can't undo the past, but I want to help rebuild. I want to make things right even if from a distance. I looked at him, memories of betrayal flashing through my mind. And yet, beneath that pain, I saw sincerity, regret, and the brother I had once known. You've done more than I expected, I said slowly. But redemption isn't given, it's earned. Continue proving yourself, Kojo. That's the only way forward. He nodded, tears glinting in his eyes. I will. I swear it. The day wore on, and with the threat of Madame Mensa neutralized and Kojo's tentative return to the fold, I turned to Abena. The city skyline stretched beyond the glass walls, vibrant and alive. Abena, I said, taking her hands in mine, we've been tested in every way imaginable. Betrayal, greed, love, loyalty, and yet here we are. Stronger together. She smiled, her eyes glistening. Kwame, you've faced every storm with integrity. And together we've shown that love, trust, and partnership are more powerful than any challenge. I felt a rush of gratitude, a warmth that had nothing to do with triumph in business. You've been my anchor, my partner, my equal in every way. I couldn't have done this without you. She leaned closer, resting her forehead against mine. And you won't have to face anything alone again. The final reconciliation came quietly. Kojo returned to Accra a week later. His first steps inside the Ofori estate were hesitant, but determined. I met him in the courtyard, the carved wooden lion from our childhood still sitting on my desk, a symbol of what we had endured and what remained unbroken. Kwame, he said, voice low, I want to make amends. For everything. I was foolish, selfish, and blind. But I want to be your brother again, fully, honestly, without hiding or scheming. I studied him for a long moment. The hurt was still there, but so was the bond of blood, of shared history. Kojo, it won't be easy. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But I see that you've tried even from afar. That's the first step. He nodded solemnly. I'll take as long as it takes. And for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself a small smile. Family could fracture, betray, and wound, but it could also heal. The day closed with a celebration of victory, not just in business but in family and love. Employees, investors, and close friends gathered at the estate. Abena and I shared a quiet moment, watching the city lights flicker across Accra. You know, she said softly, we've proven something far greater than surviving corporate attacks. We've proven that love, loyalty, and integrity endure. I squeezed her hand, feeling the truth in her words. Yes. And we've learned that forgiveness and trust are just as vital as strategy and strength. As the evening settled, a messenger arrived with a small, unmarked envelope. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single line. Congratulations on surviving the storm. The next chapter awaits, if you are ready. I looked at Abena, a mixture of curiosity and excitement in my eyes. The story, it's not over. She smiled, resting her head on my shoulder. Then we face it together. Always. I held her close, feeling the pulse of the city beneath us, the warmth of love, family, and resilience around us. Whatever challenges awaited, I knew we could endure, because we were united. And somewhere deep in my heart, I knew that life, like Accra, would always hum with surprises, tests, and opportunities. But with Abena and the family beside me, I was ready for whatever came next.